Hi, I'm Cassandra Vohs-Demann, and this is the A Place to Shine podcast. Let's do this.
Well, all I can say, all I can say, well, all I can say is here I am, yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassandra Vohs-Demann, and I'm back with the A Place to Shine podcast, and I'm excited to welcome today my guest, Kristin Adkins. Hi, Kristin.
Hi, happy to be here.
I met Kristin actually through another friend of ours, Wendy Babcock, through a When Stories project that Wendy does. And I was really taken with Kristin's story and her transformation and how she sort of rebuilt her confidence. And so that's why I wanted to have her on today, because I really feel like we all need a little boost. We all need a little bit of understanding, sometimes what it takes to just make a change when you know that something in your life is out of alignment, when you know that you want to do something different. Sometimes it's just that step, that courage, that moment. And sometimes it's a catalyst in your life that causes that to happen. And you go, okay, I can't wait anymore. And so so Kristin owns Crash Design. Crash Design is a really cool web company. But what she actually does is she helps speakers get visibility through building websites that actually really help them land speaking gigs. So I'm going to have her tell you a little bit more about that first, and then we'll kind of get into the backstory.
Yes. So yeah, my business, I work with speakers of all shapes and sizes and kinds from all across the United States. And it's been really cool. I get to dive deep into where they want to be. I dive into their strategy, what makes them different. And we get like all this conversation going. And then they get copy and design and just a website that just makes them confident. Truly, if that's what our theme for the day, like that is like, they always come back and say like, I'm just so excited now to share it. And that's like the biggest thing. And so I strive for that. And it's been really cool. I've been doing this for almost 4 years now and worked with speakers almost immediately. And I don't regret it for a second.
Don't you think that there are a lot of people out there that have websites they're not proud of?
Oh goodness. Yes. Yes. And it's hurting them. And that's why I do it. Cause it's like all about like when we get back to this origin story, but I had worked where I was hiring speakers and they weren't getting hired because their websites were really bad. And it was like, I need to fix this. And so when I did go out on my own, I'm like, I know exactly who I'm helping because like I was that person that was their decision maker. So
I love that because it's very targeted.
yeah.
It's very specific. Is saying I'm trying to help a particular group of people that are trying to, take what they want to share with the world and put it out there and do it in a much more professional way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people don't, I don't think people realize how important that is to present yourself in a way that's clear.
Yeah.
Looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into the origin story.
Yes.
So what led you to that? Because I know that you had a full-time job before.
Yep. So I was at a career for almost 8 years and it was my absolute dream job. I was in an organization when I was in college. It was a sales and marketing organization, and I got to work on the headquarters. And so I was traveling around the country, consulting with college students, which at that time were only like a year younger than me. So really, I felt like I was being paid to hang out with friends. And I got to put on events for them. And I slowly through over the years just kept going up in the ranks, I guess you can say, of a small nonprofit. But I had capped out a bit. And the only thing was being the CEO was above me. And I had started thinking that was what I wanted to do. Like I was like, I'm going to be the queen of this organization is what my friends would always call me. And I was like, so pumped for it. And then just slowly over time, it just started to feel like I was getting so much responsibility. I was losing out on personal parts of my life. I wasn't doing things like over the weekends because I couldn't afford it. Because of course I said nonprofit, so I wasn't getting paid all that much. And then I was just, anything for the business. At working at night, okay. Like taking on more responsibility without any other benefit, okay. Like I'm in. I loved this organization. I love this organization. It is present tense. I'm still a part of them, volunteer. But after a while, it was just wearing on me. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start a side hustle. I had recently gotten engaged and I was like, okay, I've got to pay for a wedding. And then COVID happened. And I was like, okay, well, I have a lot of time now. Like, I'm sitting at home anyways. The transition to remote was pretty good for us as a team. And I was like, man, I'm at home. Like what can I do? And I hadn't been doing that much web design, but that was my college degree. And I started just side hustling and doing that for people. And I was really loving it. And it was kind of my thing that I was the most proud of. And it was like, which was crazy to me because I was almost 8 years into a career and I was thriving from the outside. And then, so COVID happened. The world kind of slowed down quite a bit. My dad actually got diagnosed with cancer, and we ended up losing him 2 days before my 30th birthday. And so I was sitting there unfulfilled at my job in deep grief. And again, the only thing that was bringing me that much joy was this side hustle that I was doing. And it was bringing in money, which was great because, again, saving for a wedding, my fiance and I had just bought a house. Like it was so much on my plate. And it truly was like okay, something has to change. Because and you had mentioned When Stories, and anybody could go watch that. But my dad had worked for the same career since he was 19 until he passed away, the same company. And he was my biggest cheerleader of what's next? What are you going to do next type of thing. And I think that was his way of living through me because he was always like, I have to do my job. I have to be very serious about my job. I'm never leaving this job. And then like he had to, like he was forced to retire. And so then like 6 months later he passed. And so it was like I realized I was on that same path. Like I was the exact same things he would do, like he would be stressed about, I would be stressed about. And it was just like, something's got to change. And I saw the thing that was making me happy. And I said, I'm going to go all in on that. So that is how Crash Design was born. And side note, Crash was his nickname, my dad's nickname. And so I was like, that is it. Like this is going to be my version or my way of taking the nickname and keeping it going. So Crash Design Co. was born.
I love that. I mean, I'm so sorry about your dad, and that's always hard to lose a parent. I lost my mom in 2012, and so
Yeah,
it changes who you are in the world.
it does. It
It
does.
changes who you are in the world when you lose a parent, and it also makes you really think about, at least it did for me back then, what do I really want?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like the life is too short. And you always hear that, right? And you've always heard it. Everyone's always heard it, but like it becomes very real when someone that close to you is now gone.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you saw that trajectory in your own life.
Hmm.
And I think it's really easy too to get, I like to call it, the hamster wheel, so to
Yeah.
speak, but to get on the hamster wheel and start going down a path. And maybe that path is going really well, and maybe that path feels like, okay, I'm succeeding, and this is all great.
Hmm.
But there's some little voice, some little thing that's
Yeah.
saying this is just not the right thing.
Yeah.
And that had to be it was very courageous, but it also had to be a little scary for you to
Yeah.
just sort of like step away from
Hmm.
a full-time position that you are clearly doing well at.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
It was hard. And because I respected the organization so much, like it did so much for me as a student. And that's why I loved my job, is because I was being able to impact a lot of college students' like futures. We were getting people jobs and everything. And so because I respected all of that so much, I gave like a 6 week notice, first of all. So like the transition was a little bit easier. I think they have ended up hiring like 3 people to cover my responsibilities that I was taking on. So that tells you something. But it was really hard. But then I immediately in my exit interview, I said, I still want to be involved. Like I still want to be part of this organization. And I'm still doing that. Like next week, I'll be at a conference that they're putting on for a whole week. So I'm still like part of it, the people that have become my friends. Half of my wedding party was people that I'd met through this organization as a job. So There, it's really not gone, you know. But the transition was, I think, a little bit easier for me because it was COVID, because we all were stuck at home anyways. So the work part, it was just I was still getting up at, 8 a.m., getting by on my computer by 9, working. And so because it was, again, the thing that was bringing me joy, it was easy to do. And I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So part of it was like playtime. It felt like I remember the first day that I was unemployed. I sat on like my deck outside. It was really nice because it was July 1st and I was reading and I was like, "Oh, like this is what peace feels like." And so while the transition like it just really wasn't that hard for me. The transition in my personal life was much harder. Obviously losing a parent, but the work part was I feel like I had been mistaking loyalty for endurance in my job that all of a sudden I was free. And it was like, oh, like I could breathe again. And I was listening to music again. I was like, I remember I was washing dishes one day, it was like quickly after I quit my job, and I was like singing and humming. And I hadn't done that in months since losing my dad. And so it was just like, oh, like it did change me as a person, but gosh, for the better.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't even realize that we're checked out,
Hmm.
that we're just kind of checked out from, connecting with ourself on a heart level, on a soul level,
Yeah.
because we're just like constantly moving and constantly busy and constantly mentally,
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
And so that's I mean, that's a big, courageous step, but it's also beautiful that it was the right step for you and that you
Yeah.
you had to have a good relationship with the company that you left. You
Yeah.
cared. This was
Hmm.
really more a step in a direction towards you,
Yeah.
not necessarily away from the company that you seem to really care about. And so
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of a unique thing too. It's like I'm
Hmm.
not leaving because of the actual company. I'm leaving
Right.
because I'm listening to my heart,
Yeah.
and my heart is telling me something. And I think that that's really brave. And I think a lot of people, women especially, sometimes have a hard time doing that. Have a hard time
Mm-hmm.
going, what about what I need? What do I
Yeah.
need? What
Hmm.
can I have? Like, what choices can I make? So if you were to give somebody advice about that might be in a transitional space, where
Hmm.
they're just feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to get out of it. I don't even clearly know what I want to do, but I know it isn't this.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Start following your passion. First of all, don't quit your job until you're ready because you need to have the income. But start following just what makes you happy. Start following your passion. I did a lot of journaling back then. It was the first time I'd ever really done that since I was a kid. Like I kept a diary. But then like now I was like, just writing things. I was writing a lot and I wasn't quite a writer in my own mind, but I was just like I just needed to get thoughts out and I just felt like I couldn't confide in a person. So my advice is if you do have a person you can talk to, that's great. But also like kind of talk to yourself a little bit. Start journaling, like what makes you happy? Just start finding a couple pieces of gratitude every day and I think you're going to start seeing trends of like, oh, I really love this. And maybe it's this old passion that you had. Like for you, I know like singing and music is like such a huge thing. So it's like maybe someone has that as well. They're like, oh man, I just really love to sing and or I love, producing or something. And it's like, what is that thing? And then how can you just do a little bit more of it? And then I think the money and the business part and all of that can definitely follow. And there's 10 million, pieces of advice somebody could give you for that. But just start looking inward and know that everything, first of all, can be your life's work. Like it can be your job. It can be what anything can if you just monetize it. So why not have fun? Why not do the things that you want to do?
Well, I always joke around with people about the fact that, as a musician for 30 years, and I'm still a musician, but I do a lot of things now,
Right.
that we play music. There's a
Mm.
reason that it's called play music.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that. And I
And
was
so,
playing on my computer. Like I was just designing things for fun and I wasn't doing that anymore at my job. And I was like, man, I really liked doing this. And so now I'm like, oh, wait a
yeah.
minute.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing that we forget sometimes is that there's joy in the play. That,
Hmm.
and not that business is always easy or work is easy. There's always
Right.
going to be parts of it that you're like, yeah, this doesn't feel like play. But the actual work, the actual thing that you're doing, it should drive you in a way.
Yeah.
And because you have a mission and a vision for it, and there's a reason you're doing it, and you enjoy it, it's like all aligned.
Right. And you're gonna do something, you're gonna be so much more into it. Like you're gonna put your whole heart and soul into something if you care about it or if you have a little bit of fun doing it. So if people can find that thing that's theirs, whatever it may be, like that's what I hope for everybody.
Yeah, and that could be working for a company. It could be working for yourself. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just fine, being willing
Oh
to,
yeah.
or to your point, adding things to your life outside of work that are going to
Hmm.
help feed that part of yourself. Like I've
Right.
had, as the artistic director and founder of the Woodstock Community Choir, one of the reasons I started that organization was because at my school that I owned, I had a lot of people coming in saying, "Hey, there's no choir in town. We have a city
Mm.
band. There's no choir." I loved choir when I was in school. I haven't sung since I got out of high school, and they're like 30 years later. And so
Right.
this kept coming at me, and I looked at my assistant at the time, and I said, "What if we just saw if it was viable?"
Yeah.
11 years later, we're 65 voices strong and
That's
adopted by the city,
awesome.
and so, but what I found is there were so many people that let that little singing piece that they did in high school that they loved, that was a
Hmm.
community for them, that they just stopped doing it
Yeah.
when they got out of college, or started life and adulting and all the things,
Right.
and didn't even realize it till later. And then once they took it back, once there was an opportunity for them to go and do it again,
Hmm.
what richness it brought back to their life, and
Yeah.
stress reduction and community and friendships and all that. And that's always what's driven me, as an
Hmm.
entrepreneur and an artist, is and a coach, is to build things that give people space, give
Yeah.
people a space to find other people, build
Oh yeah.
community, feel like
Hmm.
they belong. And so I think that they're out there, I guess, is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. And so sometimes you just have to seek it out a little bit, uh, do a little research. Back in the day, we didn't have the Google when I was young,
Yeah.
so we had to do everything with the library. But I know you probably can't even imagine that, Kristen.
Oh,
Um,
I used to love the library. Don't even. I have a library card. I still go. Everybody should go get one, by the way.
yeah. So I wanted to ask one other thing about the business,
Yeah.
because how do you, okay, so like when somebody comes to you and they say, I'm a speaker, or a speaker, I want to be a speaker,
Hmm.
and I have this website, what is it about their websites that are not working?
So one is that it doesn't make them look, it doesn't give their personality like any bit. So they might be, and the thing I say all the time is that if their website looks more like an obituary, like we need to fix that. And so like if like it's a marketing piece, so like why doesn't it be more about like shining on you and not just like a resume, I suppose is the better way of saying it, but like why not have a little bit of you in there? It needs to prove that you have done the thing, that you can be trusted. So whether that be videos or past clients and you should definitely have videos. Um, but the thing is, what I always try to get back to with my clients is if I look at your website and I could erase your name and put someone else's and it fits and it like works out, then we need to do a little bit more. Like, what is the thing that makes you so unique? And so that's why when I work with someone, I'm like, we're having a strategy call that's an hour, sometimes multiple, that I'm like, seriously, what makes you unique? Like, that's the thing that's going to get you on stages. And so when I'm making a website, I'm like, okay, this person, like, we're not just going to say we're leadership speakers or something. Like, who are we helping? What's our specific, like, storyline that does that. And so it's really cool that I get to tell people stories through their website and get to play with that. So that's my biggest thing is if it could be someone else's website, it's not good enough.
I
Not
love
you
that.
enough.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I love that, because it's saying, you have a unique voice, lean into that
Yes.
unique voice. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to, and it's nice to get ideas and look at other people's websites and whatever, but ultimately, if you think of yourself as, I think everyone's an artist in their own way.
Yes.
Whatever work
Hmm.
they do, there's an art of it, right? They practice it. There's something
Yeah.
that they're, putting out there. And I always say, try to find that inner artist, try to find that inner voice,
Yeah.
what lights you up, and
Hmm.
put that out there. And I think that's where we're very aligned in our businesses, because my biggest thing is like helping people find their voice, right?
Yeah.
And whether that's on stage or, as a speaker or just as a business owner, in life.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times we don't listen to that, and we listen to a lot of advice,
Hmm.
and we can't make sense of it all.
Yeah.
And we try to do what everybody says. And
And we
then,
try to be everything for everyone. It's just like we can't please everybody. Like I'm not a web designer for everybody. Like I'm very specific in my lane because I know that's where I can help the most. And I'm like, and I say that on all my stuff. Like, and I say it on every podcast. Like I design for speakers. I'm not designing for construction companies. I'm not, like I could, but I don't want to. So like why not make this the thing? And so that's what when it comes to speakers or anybody at any job, like what's the thing? Like what is that little like thing that is unique about you? And I love the artist thing you said because like my immediate thought was like somebody that could spin a spreadsheet and just make it like work and beautiful. That is art. Like so if someone's like, "Oh, I'm not creative," there's something that you're making. And so that was
it
my,
is
I have
because
to
my
make her
account,
say that.
I've had the same accountant for 20 years, and she's awesome. And we would joke all the time because she would say, "Cassandra, you're the most organized, creative person I've ever worked with." I said,
That's impressive.
it is, because I was like, I got both sides of my brain going all the time.
Right.
Because I build a lot of things too. And so, but she loves accounting. Like she's
Yeah.
like, I love it when it balances. I love it when it like all works out. And I said, this is why you're my accountant. I said, I
Right.
want an accountant who loves being an accountant,
Yes.
who knows that I don't love being an accountant,
Yeah.
who doesn't
And I
even
don't have to
want it.
find joy in something for you to find joy in it. If you find joy in everything balancing, that's awesome. I'm happy
Yeah.
for you.
No, and I think that that's really when you build your team around you, if you are an entrepreneur, then
Yeah.
those are the kinds of people you want to find, because those are
Oh
the
yeah.
ones you're like, I love being an assistant, I love being an accountant, I love being whatever it is. I think
Hmm.
that's the key. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I love this conversation. So what is in the future for you? What is it that you're looking forward to? What do you have coming up? And do you have any challenges right now that you're frustrated about? I know that was like five
Ooh.
questions in one, but go ahead, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. So right now I feel like I'm really hitting my stride. I will say, like I had a lunch with a bunch of business owners yesterday and I just had so much good to say. Like everyone's like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "I'm doing great." Like I just truly am in like a good season right now. And I think that has a lot to do with I now have a junior designer that is, gosh, sometimes better than me. Like I think she is incredible. So that's always helpful. Like I have a wonderful copywriter that really just gets what I want. And like I'm just building something that I'm so proud of. And so right now, I just truly feel so excited, so confident about it. And then down the road, I have a few big projects that I want to do from the web design side. Like just streamlining a little bit more, maybe offering, just being able to help more people, of course. And then on the personal-ish side, I want to do more speaking. You mentioned that we were able to share a stage and we were co-authors together and just a really cool opportunity. And I loved doing that. And so I want to be on more stages. I want to do more speaking because I was doing that in my old job. I was, doing training and everything. And then in the first few years of doing my business, I was sitting at this desk, not moving quite much, like just, doing the work, sitting on a computer all day. And then there's just something about being on the stage that just makes me so nervous that I love it. And so it's just like that thing that just really makes your heart beat. So that is the thing that I'm looking forward to, I will say. Um, Struggling in my business, I don't know. I'm in a business cohort right now, like an accelerator, and it's just been introducing me to a lot of people. And so it's just been so cool. Like doors have been opening, just the more people I know. And I'm getting to offload things that I don't want to do anymore, like accounting. like the legal stuff, like all those things. So it's just been great.
I'm glad that you are putting yourself out there because I think that's another thing. It's just like you have to be seen, you have to be out in the world.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people don't know you exist, and you can't. I mean, it's nice to be able to do social media, but there's nothing compares to like sitting next to someone, having a conversation,
Yes.
and kind of seeing where that takes you. That's
Yeah.
always been where most of my business has come,
hmm
is always in relationship building.
Yes,
And
always.
the other thing I love that you said about being on stage, there was something about you said something about the nerves that's
Yeah.
exciting and all of that. I tell people all the time, nerves are normal.
Yes.
And so a lot of times, especially when I'm working with people on sort of working on how to manage those nerves, especially when they're getting up in front of people,
hmm
they think that they shouldn't be nervous. And I
Yeah.
always tell people the nerves are a thing. It's how you manage them.
Yes.
And then it's also how you take that energy
hmm
and put it into whatever you're doing, whatever talk you're doing or workshop or,
Yeah.
podcast or whatever it might be.
Right.
Right. And I love that because I think I always try to explain to people that even me, even the gig I did last Friday, because I had a couple speaking things in the last couple weeks, even the one I did last Friday, because it was really important to me to do well for this organization, for
hmm
them to be able to raise the money they needed, and whatever. There was this little elevated bit of nerves
Yeah.
that I had, and I'm not usually one to get that nervous, but
Yeah.
in this particular case I was like, oh wow. And it was 45 minutes
hmm
of engaging that audience, and with a particular mission, and and ask from the organization that they
Right.
wanted me to drive
Yeah.
home. And so I was nervous that day. I
I
was
think it
nervous.
shows you cared, you know? Like
And
if I didn't
but
care about something, I'm not nervous about it. That's for sure.
exactly. So, and to your point, but for me, I don't know if this works for you, and I always try to drive this home. Once I'm up there, if I've prepared well, and that's
Yes.
another thing that's really important, I'll just put that on the
hmm
side. If I prepared well, then it's basically my zone of genius is when I get
hmm
up in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
When was hard for me because I'm not a big, I love having like 1,000 people in front of me or
Yeah.
100 people, and so, and you'd think it wouldn't be, but it was more sort of, it was so quiet, and it was so like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I
It was
need
very intimate.
people.
It was, yeah.
Give me people. But it was a great experience. It was a great
Yeah.
experience. So, all right, cool. So Crash Design, if you are a speaker and
Yeah.
you really need to up level your game as far as where you're sending people to see what you do, Kristin is your person. So you should reach out to her, Crash
Yeah.
Design Co. I'll put it in the show notes. And Kristin, I have a tagline I use a lot, and
Okay.
it's your voice, your vision. My
Mhm.
goal is to help people express themselves without barriers. And if I were to say that to you, what does that mean to you?
To me, I feel that so viscerally. And I'm just like, it's so much of what I want people to know on any front is just that it's kind of like a your voice matters. Like like you have a voice, you have some kind of vision, you have something in you to follow it. And I think that's step one. So definitely do that. Your voice is worthy. It matters, whoever you are. And so to me, that's what I think of first is the individual. Every individual has a voice, and it does matter.
It does matter. I don't think we can end on a better note. So, so thank you again, Kristin Adkins. Her company again is Crash Design Co. You can find her also on LinkedIn, Instagram.
Mhm.
Just look her up. But again, I'll put those links in the show notes. And you will find us both on all the podcast platforms. And then I
Oh
will also
yeah.
post this video on YouTube. I just started the YouTube thing. So there's not a whole lot of activity. I've never been a YouTuber. Even as a musician, I've never really done because I did so much live stuff. I didn't really do a lot
Right.
of video. So now I'm kind of getting into this thing.
I'm honored to be like at
Uh,
this like foundational level. Like,
so yeah,
it'd be
so go
cool.
subscribe to the
Yes, everyone
YouTube
go subscribe.
or subscribe to the podcast, which is on all the things. So,
Mhm.
so Kristin, thank you so much.
Thank you. I feel like we could talk for hours.
I know. So, and good luck with everything that you have going on. And I'm sure we'll cross paths again. So,
Oh, of course.
yeah. All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you very soon.
Well, all I can say